Good time to start. Get back over here. Meg, oh, you have the recording on? Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, I just started.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. A bunch of you were here last week, and we have some returning and new faces. So if this is your first time here, welcome, and thanks so much for joining us. And if you are returning, thanks for coming back. Great to see you all. If we know you, a lot of you we know in person and have spent lots of time together in person, and a lot of you, more and more faces coming in, we are meeting for the first time. So thanks so much for being here with us. I'm Ashley, if you are new and don't know me yet, and this is Meg. And yeah, this is our Experience Alaya community. And we've been having these satsangs, these community gatherings for a couple months now since COVID began. And one of the great things coming out of COVID is this prompted us to do this. And it just feels so nice to have community all around the world that now we get to see on a weekly-ish basis. Yeah. Oh, Kitty right to the screen. The animals are involved too. It's great.
Jazz's cat is always here. It's great.
So we're going to continue our conversation. If you weren't here last week, no worries. We always have the intention of beginning each call, welcoming you in. Meg wasn't here last week. She was just on an awesome trip with her family. And so don't worry. Anytime you miss a call or if you're coming in, our intention is to continue this through line all the way through. You're welcome at any time. And last week we called the call Becoming Human Again. And we really started off talking about how, as humans, we have become disconnected from nature and the natural world around us. And in doing so, we have become disconnected from our human nature. And that in the yoga tradition and many traditions, the essence of the universe, the essence of the world, the essence of nature, and therefore the essence of human nature, is consciousness or awareness. That we understand that there's one underlying thread of reality, one underlying thread of awareness that permeates through absolutely everything. And that in the Ayurvedic tradition, which is one of the sister sciences, the medical sister science to yoga, that they identify disease, dis-ease, as all disease being rooted in a disconnection from source. So that when we feel dis-ease, when we have even just, a slight bit of anxiety, or we have, something much further down the line, that, and even on a macro scale, where I think we really talked about how we can see that our culture and our humanity right now is suffering from dis-ease. And that identified in these traditions, it's that there is a need for a reconnection back to source. And a reconnection back to source, talking about source being, again, awareness, consciousness. And so it can sound so complicated, but what we really honed in on last week is that our connection to our awareness, our capacity to cultivate presence. I really think of meditation as awareness cultivation practices. That when we actually steady our mind and we train ourselves to be present, and it does not mean we have to be sitting upright in a cushion with our eyes closed. I do invite us all to do that at least once a day. But by being deeply present with the person in front of us and hearing them completely, by being mindful of what we're doing with our hands, the way we touch ourselves, the way we touch one another, the way we touch the earth. All of these things, by bringing attention and bringing awareness, that what we are doing is inherently connecting to our humanity, and inherently connecting to the natural world, to that which connects all of us. So we ended last week connecting with one thing we could do, one simple but deeply profound thing we could do to cultivate presence and awareness, understanding that like that in itself is our act of healing. And so where we're going to continue on the road today, and just to let you know, we're going to continue down this road today. And then next week, we are going to turn the corner a little bit into this idea of impermanence, this understanding of impermanence. I just want to give you a little bit of a thread through. I don't see Keenan on here. Maybe he's coming later, but we had someone write in requesting that we talk about impermanence and death and dying as it relates to the human experience, because of everything going on in the world right now. So we're gonna follow that thread through. And today we're gonna connect with the aspect of our humanity that, you know, in the yoga tradition, there is really no separation between our human nature in all of its beautiful flaws and our divine nature. You know, the yoga tradition acknowledges that absolutely everything in the world is divine. Absolutely everything in this physical material world is an expression of a one universal consciousness. Or you might connect with this as God or heart or spirit. You know, from a scientific perspective, it's this idea that we live in a fractalized universe, that everything is a reflection, is an embodiment of the one Maha, as the Sanskrit word for it, the one universal spirit. So even in our darkest, kind of most shadowy emotions or experiences in this tradition, we don't turn away from something saying, oh no, that is not divine, or that is dark, or that is dangerous, even though there is real meaning in this context. We're talking about like, oh, that thought is dangerous, or I shouldn't feel that emotion. Oh, I do yoga, I should be so grateful for everything I have right now, so I shouldn't actually feel depressed or sad or hurt. I should just be happy with what I have, right? In this tradition, nothing exists that is not the divine. So even in our most, you know, challenging aspects of who we are, that when we build relationship with those aspects of who we are building greater relationship with the totality of the universe, the whole, with spirit, with nature. So the more we get to know ourselves, the more we get to know our human nature. The same thing goes for the more we engage in the world around us and the people around us. You know, the more that we can cultivate the capacity to actually see the divine, to see God, to see love in everyone and everything. What this does so immediately is takes us from our individual self with a small s, or like the individual mind or ego, we could say that. It takes us from the situation being all about me, because let's be honest, I love this quote from my teacher, like, we all think we're the center of the universe, but we are, because you are the center of your universe. Like, you can't actually get past that. You know, you are the center of your universe. It's the way you look out into the world from yourself is through you. And so our practice of shifting to see, to invite ourselves to see where the good is in something first. Because one of the qualities of God, of consciousness, of spirit, is called Shri, or auspiciousness. It's like only yoga people really like know the word auspiciousness and use it all the time, but I love that word. Auspiciousness means benevolent or beneficent. It means that inherently within the universe, there is goodness. The universe itself is inherently good. This is a hard thing to put on and swallow sometimes, especially with what's going on in mainstream media and in the world around us right now. But this is what we're asked to do from this tradition, is to actually see the beauty, to see the good, to see the potential. And that's a great aspect of auspiciousness, is potentiality. Because another aspect of auspiciousness is that it creates more. It creates abundance. It's generative. So when we can actually invite ourselves to see a situation, to see the divine in everything, it doesn't mean everything is just hunky-dory and good and we're bypassing that there's work to be done. But it allows us to be transformed from our individual self, which is much more polarizing. We see good and we see bad, and we have preference and we see something we don't like. We see up and we see down. We see sunny, we see rainy, we see opposition, right? We can see polarity. But when we try and challenge ourselves to see the thread of goodness, the thread of divine in absolutely everything, our individual mind of preference and polarization expands. Literally, our individual consciousness, our individual mind expands into our more universal mind, our S with a big S, our self with a big S, our divine selves, our highest selves. I don't always like to use that word because it is, again, polarizing. And the whole point is we're trying not to be polarizing. But it allows us to expand our awareness. And when our awareness is big and vast and wide, we're so much more effective in being benevolent, in acting, in creating making auspicious choices, making decisions, and that are for the good of all beings and all things. So this practice of, and it's a simple practice, there's lots of quotes of it in the yoga tradition. One is nothing exists that is not Shiva. Shiva is one of the names for consciousness. Like the positive act of Shiva is like to be a good witness, right? Like, so when we embody, can we be a good kind of unbiased witness? Then we can drop back in and, of course, never be totally outside of our bias, but act from a space that is far wider and vaster than just our own individual self. Seeing through the eyes of God, see God in all beings and all things. Like, how would we act differently? How would we engage in the world? How would the world be different if we could all see the divine in everything? Yeah. And so, Meg, why don't I bump it over to you if you want to share a little on that before we go into practice.
Sure. Thanks for all of that. That's really, really, really lovely. And I mean, I feel like it's such an interesting thing too. You guys, I know you guys talked about nature last week, and for those of you guys that have been with me in person before, you've heard me say this a lot. But when a great storm comes through my backyard in the summertime, I don't get mad at the storm and say that it's bad. I know that it has a rightness and something is there that the earth needs, that I need, that everything needs. And so, when Asheigh is talking about, getting beyond the right and the wrong and the good and the bad and the polarization that happens when we do that, it opens us up to such a bigger understanding, to really engage in the world from a place where we either experience or continue to open ourselves to the possibility that everything is sacred is it, like, to me it feels like it, I don't want to say it's like magic, but that is what presence is to me. Like that, I know that I'm in presence when that is either, you know, I'm living in that potentiality, because that potentiality, I mean, so maybe I'll say this, because there's so much to say on this, and I'm, you know, listening to Ashley and I'm thinking I can pull all these different threads. The thing that helps me to open to the possibility that everything is sacred is curiosity. That's if I can embody a sense of curiosity with whatever is arising, this allows me to start to step into something that my mind just definitely doesn't understand, and to know that I can be curious and live beyond the answers. I like to think that where I have the answers, I live in a state of contraction. And so to open up to curiosity, to open up to the mystery, to open up to this element of myself that I'm not really understanding and I'm not really liking, to bring a sense of curiosity to that, because I might not see God there right away, to be honest, no matter how hard I try. So like on a real practical level, you know, if something is really hard for me to see, I mean, because I know for me, like this is my like my own internal mantra, where there's a side to be on, there's work to be done. That's my internal mantra. When I find myself on a side, I'm like, oh right, there's some work to do here. And so my tool there is then curiosity. I need to start to go in to understand myself and my own human nature better. Maybe it's, you know, maybe I'm having a rub with someone else, and I go in with curiosity to try to figure out that. Because, you know, ultimately, as humans, I mean, first of all, we have got to find our way back to each other, because that, you know, that is what we're here for as humans. That's part of the gift of being human. And that's part of the superpower of being human, is being connected and in community. And we have to do the work to find our way back to each other. And I had another thread, and it's just gone. Thank you, menopause. I'm on something, but this is the thing. So when we find ourselves at this divide where we're on a side, if we can at least bring curiosity to that space, it can open us up at least to the possibility of the presence of the divine. What I was going to say, this is coming back now, is that fundamentally, when we start to look at base human needs, they are all the same. The way that we often will try to go about getting them met will be different. But if we take curiosity into ourselves, into our experience with another, and really start to understand what is the base, what is the root need in this maybe conflicting situation, or what's happening here, then we can start to honor the something sacred that's in us all. Like that's a real, you know, common connection. So what I want to say here is that from this perspective, if it is all divine and it is all connected, we have this notion that we can like say, okay, I can think that might be true. But oftentimes that is not our lived experience, that it's all divine and that it's all connected. Is that true for you guys? Like, I can think that, but oftentimes I feel that. Is that true? Or is that just me? Yeah, it's true. Yeah, it's pretty true. It's like, okay, I get that. I get the philosophy behind it. But the embodiment of that, I'm falling short. I don't really experience that to be the case. And that just brings it back to what Ashley was saying before, is that presence is the thing that can help to bridge this gap between our notion that this might be true to a lived experience that it is. And to me, curiosity is the thing that helps me to really go on the search for the divine in myself, in the moment, and in all things. I have this trust and this knowing that it's there, but if I can at least start to get curious at like, what are the layers and what are the veils that I'm operating behind in order to get some kind of need met. And then same with someone else. I mean, I just spent a week with my family. So I was just doing this work of curiosity in a really intense way for a week, because my family is, like most families, very complicated. And we have some really interesting dynamics. And I could really root myself in when I come up against my dad's points of views, for example. I could really root myself into my righteousness, and my dad could root himself into his righteousness, and we start to get further and further and further and further away from each other. Versus if we come up against something was said, I'm not cool with what was said, so I start to fight with what was said, and he starts to fight with what I'm saying, and we start to just get farther and farther and farther away from each other. He didn't come to my side. I certainly didn't go to his side. Do you see? And so nothing grows there in that landscape. And so instead, it's like I can trust that there is a divine thread that I can follow all the way through here, and start to get curious. What's the need that I have underneath all of this? I have this deep need to connect with my dad. And so I am, my actions were getting me further away from being able to do that, right? I have a deep need to connect with him and to understand him, and to try and figure out how we can develop a really loving relationship. And then if I actually get curious with my dad, I get down through to the root of things. I feel what we had a specific encounter, and it was like, oh, right, at the root of that is fear of becoming obsolete, which I think we all have. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, you are so not obsolete to me. What I need more than anything is you. And my dad's fear of being obsolete. But if we didn't come in with curiosity, we would never be able to mine the gem that's there. Does that make sense to you guys? Yeah. And then from there, we've got a new way to go. But anyways, it's coming to things that are hard or challenging with a sense of humility and with a sense of curiosity can help us to at least open to the possibility that this moment is the house of the divine. This moment is sacred, and bring us from a place where we just wish that were true to a place where we really experience that to be the case. I mean, if we think about this in terms of like the most overused analogy, but it really works, of like, if we think about this all in terms of everything in the universe is like the ocean, let's say, you can never separate the wave from the ocean. You can never separate the water from the ocean. So everything that arises in the ocean of consciousness is the ocean. And so everything that rises in the ocean of consciousness can lead us back to its source. Yes? So just approaching with with curiosity and possibility that yes, God does live here too, helps me to bring that to a place where it's not something that I wrote down in my notebook, to a place that I know it to be true in my heart. So you guys could try that on. It's just what works for me, but I wanted to just give you guys a practical tool that I use consistently throughout the day, a million times throughout the day.
Thanks, Meg. I remember when I first we're not going to go all the way into this, but in the yoga tradition, there's this thing called the rasas, which are like the flavors of life. You know, like we're savoring life. There's the different flavors of life. And I just remembered loving the word for curiosity, which is called adbhuta. It also means like childlike wonder. You know, it's like the cultivation of, or like that experience when you're just like in awe. I mean, like, how many times have you turned on the news lately and seen like what's going on? And like, I truly have just been like, wow, this is amazing, really. I mean, like, it's so wild. Every, like, you know, what's going on, and just all the different information and everything. It's just like, it's adbhuta, you know, and we sometimes think of it as this like, oh, it's just this happy, sweet thing. And oftentimes it can be, but the point, and I just love that Meg said that, is like, it's actually like when you're in a friction, or you're in where you want to feel so contracted, or you feel so closed, or you feel so on a side about something, to try on that flavor of just like, of awe. Because you said it so well, Meg, like, this goes beyond the rational mind. Like, how much of what's going on in the world is truly beyond the rational mind? You know, there's our access point. When we start to get to a point where sometimes where you feel like your tools of communication aren't working, like Meg was saying, you know, your tools of understanding aren't working, your rational mind's trying to make sense of it, your ego's trying to like defend something, kind of throwing things up a little bit and just being like, wow, like, can I be curious about like what's happening here with Meg and her dad? Like, what's happening here? And that took her all the way to the thread of, you know, the fear of being obsolete. You know, and in a practical, that's a very practical way. I want to also, like, you know, one of the things that's so important to Meg and I about the way that we teach, share, and experience Alaya is to really empower you, all of us, into our own experience of these and our own understanding of these concepts. So instead of us like we give you an example and now I'll give you a little practice, but the practice we're going to do, and then Meg will share something too, is to show you that just connecting to these concepts by taking some time to reflect, like when you guys shared, those of you who were here last week who shared what you were going to do to be present, you know, it's like, we don't need to tell you. No one needs to tell you what to do. You just like try this concept on, right? Adbhuta, right? Curiosity, you know, right? Nothing exists. It's not Shiva, whatever sits with you somewhere on a sticky note near, you know, and like sit with it, think about it. Your own natural expression and embodiment of that practice is going to arise. So we'll do it now in the form of a breath-based awareness practice. But I say this because my hope is to give you an experience of curiosity through this closed-eyed, breath-based kind of contemplative practice, but that you are enough in simply sitting and contemplating these ideas. Like, this is the beauty of this, is it's just like, here's an idea to contemplate, and the way that you will be able to connect to embody that will come through you. It's so important for us that you all understand that we want everyone to come back and gather with us, because we all like to be together, and because we all get filled up by being here and seeing one another and being in conversation of these teachings and these truths. Not because you need us, because without this you don't get it, you know, because the point is that we need you. We all need one another. Like Meg said, we'll have to find our way back to each other, and the way of doing that is to take just these contemplations into our own hearts, you know, and you know. So wherever you are, just close your eyes. I see a couple people laying down, and you look cozy, so I wouldn't want to disrupt you. You can do this laying down. If you're comfortable sitting up, sit up. Let your eyes close. We started the email that we sent out about this gathering with a quote from Carl Jung, which is, until you make the unconscious conscious. I have to find it. I didn't memorize it. I've said it many times. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And so simply, we make, just like we did last week, the unconscious conscious by taking your awareness to your breathing. Part of the autonomic nervous system happening without you having to consciously choose to breathe. The world is happening and unfolding, whether you are conscious to it or engaged in it or not. And yet, we just simply take our attention, take your awareness to the experience of breathing. No need to shape the breath or change the breath. No need to make it longer or shorter or deeper or faster or smoother. Just bear witness. Be a good witness. A curious witness. As we talked about last week, prana, the life force, one of the many essences of divine, of spirit, moves through us in the form of breath. So just be curious, observing the way your breath flows into your body. The sensation of it arising. The sensation of breath moving out. What does it feel like to be breathed? A deep, intimate connection with the one, with spirit. Caressing you, massaging you, awakening you in every cell of your being. And maybe by cultivating this curious awareness, you might notice where your breath is deep. You might notice where it catches a little bit. You might notice where it flows smoothly. Knowing that every expression of your breath is perfect, is divine, is an expression of love, is a gateway in and of itself to your wholeness, to that which connects you with everything. So without needing to change something, you may notice some different sensations in your body. See if you can observe them without judgment, without preference or disdain. Just curious into how you are in this moment. Even feeling your heartbeat, sensing blood, lymph, plasma flowing through all of the tributaries of your body. What does it feel like to see the infinite, the divine, in everything, even in your discomforts, even in your hang-ups? Just cultivating that curiosity. What would it be like to see everything as possibility, as sacred, holy? Just let your awareness stay anchored in this awareness of breath. Meg, I'll let you continue on with our practice journey.
So as you experience the coming and going of breath, open yourself up with curiosity. Really experience the nature of the breath, acknowledging the interconnection, the interbeing of breath, experiencing how you, as you breathe in, as breath enters you, let you take the outer landscape inside. As you breathe in the breath of the trees, the breath of the breeze, the breath of the air around you. That's come from miles and years long gone by. And as you breathe out, the most intimate nature of your existence gets offered up to the breeze, landscape, the air around you. Simply open yourself up to the mystery of the breath. You don't even have to necessarily think about it, just experiencing the weaving of the inner and outer landscape into something well beyond what you could possibly imagine. The intricacies of your inner landscape that allow the breath to be received, the cells, the blood, the lungs, all coordinating, conspiring. Can you feel the aliveness within you that allows the breath to flow through? Sit light with curiosity to open yourself up to the entirety of the experience of each breath before you even have a thought about it. Opening to the awe, to the wonder that each simple, ordinary breath is. As you fully allow yourself to experience each breath in its entirety. Open yourself up to the curiosity. From where does this very breath come, this one right now? What is its source? And to where does this breath go? Perhaps opening yourself up to the possibility that there is nothing that this breath is not. It's traveled on the breeze, across the seas, through so many lungs already. Infinite, just here. from this place, this expansive, spacious place of experienced breath, experienced life. Open yourself up to experience the world of sound within and all around you. Without having to name any of the sounds, just feeling and experiencing each of the sound vibrations flowing through, just like the breath flowing through. Open yourself up to experience the world of sound before you even have a thought about it. Allow the sound, like the breath, to open you, to undo you, to awe you. That like to experience each vibration of sound beyond preference, beyond likes or dislikes, to just open yourself up to the world of sound. With curiosity, it's open to the mystery. Where does each sound come? And to where does it go? Each sound rising from before the silence and returning to something more infinite than we could ever dream. Now open and spacious. Just allow yourself to experience yourself before you even have a thought about it. Just experience pure being without having to refer to a thought to define who you are. What's it like to experience your existence before you even have a thought about it? And open yourself up to the simple curiosity of the source of yourself. From where do you come? You, this matrix of millions, trillions of cells and thoughts and sensations, ideas and creations. You, with millions of loves and losses and stories. You, with compassion and joy and anger and sorrow. From where do you come? And to where do you return? Step into a space beyond the answers. Just allow yourself to experience the mystery, curious and open. What if you and all that you are and all that this moment is the dwelling of God? Allow yourself to come back to the experience of the breath, the infinite breath flowing through your body. Your experience with the weight of your body on the ground, on the earth. The air on your skin and the skin that you're in. And resting here on holy ground, allow your eyes to softly open, receptive to both inner and outer landscape. It's not so far away. The divine God, the infinite consciousness, awareness. It's closer than your breath. It is the fabric of who you are, and the earth upon which we walk, and the stars that humble and inspire us. It is in the eyes of your loved ones, and it is in the hearts of those that you have a hard time loving. But if we can care enough to look and to try our best to find this in ourselves and all that we meet, love will reign. And it's really vital that we take this to the places where we have forgotten, where it's hard, where we're othering and dominating and destroying. It's really, the world needs the healing touch of all of our loving presence. It needs our care. We can and we will find our way back to each other. I know it for sure. So I know that we're right at time, and I want to thank you all for being here and being open and present. And throughout the course of this week, try again to just really open yourself up to with presence to the moment and curiosity to how the divine lives here. And just then prepare to be amazed. I have never not been amazed when I really, truly open myself up in this way. So it's really wonderful to see you all. Love you all so much. We'll continue next week. I'm really happy to see all your faces.
Everyone. Thank you.
Bye. See you next week.
See you next week.